And now, a heavy hitter pads history lesson. Many years ago, there was a company talking to me about doing a signature quad pad. And so I said, okay. So I made a legit pad that was identical, perfectly set up like the actual drums. And then I made a different one for the smaller size drums. And then I made a zone pad and I started doing all these different things. So the very first quad pad, I brought it out. Well, I tried it and the rubber stuck and it wasn't quite it. So I went to a music store and I bought some ancient drum heads from bass drums that were like almost dry rotted. And I said, these can be like the real drum heads. I don't want it to stick to the rubber. I need smoothness. I need lateral glancing off. And so that's when the Quadrapad was born. I brought this thing in, and you'll see a picture of it. I brought it into the kitchen table. The first thing I played was, and I was like, yeah! And I started like pounding the table and freaking out and punching for two reasons. One, finally, this worked. It was like the moment that Frankenstein came to life. It's alive! And then secondly, I was mad that this thing did not exist when I really need it. So my roommate, Chris Romanowski, heard the ruckus, what's going on? And said, look at this. This is the real thing. This works. The world needs this. It does not currently exist. So the next thing you know, we started talking.
Yeah, so at that point, it was like, we were both teaching out in Southern California, and after 30 seconds on the Quadrapad, it was like, my kids need this, and why doesn't this exist? So I literally had like $3,000 that I was about to leave to the bank and go put in my IRA. And I said, man, I mean, do you think we could make this? And, you know, like we just sat down at the kitchen table, you know, shooting ideas around. And at that moment, we just decided that we were going to do that. And, you know, I was a snare drummer. So I grew up playing on pads that were not round. And one of the things I really wanted was a round pad. And I said, do you think we could do round pads for snare drummers? And we kind of high-fived, and that was it. It was all on a handshake and $3,000, and Heavy Hitter Pads was born in that kitchen, and what eventually turned into the world headquarters for Heavy Hitter Pads.
This would have been year 2000, back when we were just young, scrubbing kids with 2 nickels to rub together pretty much. And so I was experimenting with all kinds of different rubber, different types. There was a day where we were using 3/16 inch rubber, which was thinner than all the other pads out there and felt better and different. And I said, what if? And so I ordered up some 1/8 inch rubber. I tried it out, it was like, ooh. I walked into the house, said, Roma, what do you think of this? And he plays it like, whoa. And like, yes, Slim Pad was born.
Yeah, we had like massive amounts of rubber leading up to that. We had like 50 pieces of rubber that laid out, and I remember you tuned some drums up, and we just sat there and hacked on things until found the one that felt the best, and that's what we rolled with. It was important to us that we were going to create something that was different, unique, and put in our students' hands that were going to help them be productive. You know, gone were the days of you were going to play on something that was soft and you couldn't hear the articulation or it didn't feel right. We wanted our students to be able to go from their pad to their drum and not notice a difference.
No more pad hands. So we happen to have with us a collection of relics. So this is the first, the first ever stock pad. So straight circle, it was thinner base at the time, 3/16 inch gum rubber. So you can see where I used the utility knife and cut it out. And then...
And it's still stuck.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like...
It took me 8 months to stick rubber to wood. It's not simple.
People think that's easy.
And then I have with me...
Oh, wait.
Oh, okay.
On January 1st, 2002, once we kind of had a formula that we thought we were going to roll with, this pad sat in my dad's car in Michigan all winter to make sure that the adhesive and the rubber and everything was going to make it through cold temperatures. And so it's pretty neat to see this. My dad actually found another one recently. Now he lives in Florida, they're still 100% ready to go and play on to this day.
So to bring this to public, we went to PASIC in 2001. And we're just two kids. I had that sort of punk rock BMX skater style to me. So we load up a minivan that's like whoa, 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 with pads of weight and drive across country to Nashville, Tennessee. And there I am, I got my Mutiny Bikes, my BMX shirt with a skull on it, and I'm loading up pads on a skateboard going into the convention center. I'm a nervous wreck because like all the chips are on the table at this point. And we're surrounded by everybody with the fancy highfalutin setup.
Yeah, all the drum companies are rolling in with forklifts, and we're literally unloading onto a skateboard and pushing our stuff in the door.
So we borrowed posters from other places and used Sharpie on the back end. We went to a store the night before. We got women's shoe racks in order to display quad pads on the table.
Listen, we were a mess. We were a total mess. Like, all we were focused on was pads, and then we realized when we got to PASIC was we had a table and a space, and that was it. Actually, we didn't even have a table. We had to borrow that table from a high school.
Yeah, it was a rough situation.
That was bad.
But we ended up winning PASIC, so to speak. They sold like crazy. At any moment in that convention, you could turn your heads 90 degrees and you would see about 2 or 3 purple pads going anywhere. There was a run on them at one point for like an hour where I had to decide which person's money to take because people played on them. And, oh my gosh, there's nothing out there like this. Why do you think we did it?
Yeah, I mean, it was so incredible to see the people's reaction to it. And I think one of the things that kind of set it off was we kind of had this underground website, the Heavy Hitter Pads website, that was actually, I remember wheeling in on a skateboard and I heard some kid whisper to another kid who was standing over in the corner, "Hey, those are the Heavy Hitter Pad guys." And they totally knew it because of the website. We didn't have any endorsers at the time, and we kind of made up all these names of people who were endorsing the pads and just funny sayings, and it became a whole thing.
Yeah, it was comedy gold. We had a review on the quad pad review from Rims B. Sparkington. He said, "This pad stinks."
Yeah, snare drum pad, I think his name was Hans R. Hating It.
Hans are hating it, that's right. So there were negative reviews and good reviews. But anybody who touched it fell in love with it. It's like, I've never had a pad with thinner rubber. I've never had a pad with extra thin rubber. Oh my gosh, the articulation from these laminates. So it was actually on day one that we started having little conversations with our friends at Vic Firth who took notice of the frenzy.
Yeah, so I remember it was awesome to just see all the purple pads walking around. And at the I&E competition, people were warming up in the hallway on our pads. And so I remember I walked over to the Vic Firth booth. Bill was manning our booth, and I had a conversation and said, "Hey, you have all the sticks in the world, but nothing to play on." And question, maybe we could do like a beginner's pack or something, like a snare drum book and some SD1s, and then what was said was, "Well, maybe we can do something bigger." And I said, "I really like the word bigger." And I remember running over to get Bill. I'm like, "Dude, it's on. Like, it's on now."
Yeah.
And it was just that moment, man. I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it.
So that is the first ever prototype stock pad. And here is production runs, wrong one. Production run from the world headquarters in our Chino garage. These are the actual production ones. We used to make orders of 300 odd pads and send it on pallets to a dealer, and we could not make them fast enough. The demand
I think this one goes a little bit before that because the base was different.
Yep.
So in the beginning, the base, that stuff that you put inside your drawer in your kitchen with your silverware, so it's and the plates don't slide.
Yep.
Yeah. Big upgrade.
Then we moved up to this. Yeah. Now
we did a run of pads that were scratch and sniff.
Yeah.
You could add a scent to it, and we made strawberry and chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole house smelled like strawberry and chocolate for like 2 months.
So gum rubber is naturally sort of a darkish brown, swirly, ugly color, and it smells bad. So when you see a rubber that's nicely uniformed color, they're adding color. And the smell, you can add different smells to it. So the very last run of heavy hitters that we did in our garage were more yellow, and they were actually lemon scented. And so those were the ones that were sent to Vic as the prototypes. That leads me to the first ever run of the Vic Firth Heavy Hitter pads. That's why they're kind of yellow like this. And the actual formula of the rubber, they felt a little bit different, and a lot of people are just jonesing for these pads. And the good news is the brand new pads are back to this formula of rubber and feel better than ever.
Yeah. I think one thing you'll notice, just how professionally made these updated pads are compared to what it was, 18 years ago?
It's even better than this one.
I mean, it's incredible the evolution that we've seen of what was our world headquarters, a 2-car garage working on our work table, which was a
giant
TV box and a door, right?
Yeah.
And to know that we were able to start something like that, you know, and Bill and I go back to, we marched in Dutch Boy together. We were roommates at Berkeley together. We moved out to California to be rock stars and ended up teaching drums. But to be able to start that with a friend, man, that's just killer, you know? And it's kept us connected for all these years. And to see the product go from literally hand cut with a knife to like super amazing production in Maine, Vic Firth is just like it's a dream, man. It's unreal that it's so cool. I got to judge Drum Corps Japan a couple years ago for finals, and I'm walking into the stadium in Yokohama, and kids are drumming on heavy hitter pads, and I'm just like, I just stopped and was like, man, like this thing is for real.
Yeah.
You know, it changed the world.
It's like, oh, there's Dave Garibaldi. Oh, there's Steve Gadd playing on heavy hitter pads.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that really happened. It's cool. And
I think one thing I'll add to that too is that back in the day, you know, most snare pads weren't round. They were either like natural wood color or black.
yeah.
You know, and so the fact that, you know, you could see how these pads changed just the way people view pads.
The original prototypes, these are black because I had black spray paint sitting on the shelf. But I initially thought, okay, it needs to stand out, it needs to be different. So I was thinking, green, how about that? And then it's like,
Well,
let's go more neutral where there's no sort of team colors. So purple, perfect,
well,
done.
green was also gonna, we were talking about like even like leopard print, tiger stripe, like the back, like something that would catch your eye.
I was told a story that when Vic Firth himself was shown the first heavy hitter pads, he says, I love the color.
Thankfully, we didn't do that.
It needed to stand out. Okay, I got logo transition here.
That thing's awesome.
Yeah. This is an original heavyhitterpads.com sticker that went on the quad pad. So what is this logo? It's become so familiar, people haven't really studied it anymore, but I'll tell you what this logo is. The letters, and this is exactly how I explained it to the graphic design person. I said, I want letters made of Stonehenge rock, and I want a giant stick coming down from the sky, crushing it, and have pieces of shrapnel flying off of it, and a lightning bolt going right to the point of impact. This is the most ridiculous, stupidest thing I can think of. Perfect.
And on top of that, one thing that people don't know in the detail of where did Heavy Hitter come from, Bill and I were going to Berkeley College of Music. We had a lot of friends that were going to UNT, and they were down there studying jazz, and I was up at Berkeley with like double bass lab, 8 a.m. on Monday, smashing as hard as I could with Dave DiCenzo. And so I would call my friends down in Texas just to check in, see how they're going. And somehow I got the nickname Heavy Hitter. Hey, it's Heavy Hitter on the phone, just because of all the metal, you know, up in Boston. And so when it came time to like figure out a name, it was like, it just kind of fit, just kind of worked.
The evolution of the quad pad, we started out with my black spray painted prototype, and I printed out heavyhitterpads.com and just put packing tape over it. This is just a mock-up. This is not the real thing. And then the next one you're gonna see here is, this is a Chino Garage, heavyhitter.com, actual quad pad. And then the third one here is the first version of the Vic Firth one. And it has my name and contact info blurred out, but I was doing so many clinics that I just had a quad pad that would just go under planes. So that's the third quad pad you're seeing here. And now, of course, we got the rims, like the whole thing's just next level. So the bass drummers, they need some love too. So teaching bass drums, there's always the problem of where's the center of the head, which hand goes where. So I developed this bass drum pad where you can actually see your hands. You can see the lineup. You can see if you're slicing. You can make sure you're in the center. So I had this worked out. Here's a picture of the very first heavyhitterpads.com bass drum pad. So you can see it had a little harness thing for the J bars on the old school harnesses bolted to it. So it's a little crude, but oh my gosh, it works.
Yeah, the heavy hitter bass pad is a pad that not a lot of people know about, but I will tell you those that have it cannot talk enough about it. And I use them with my students all the time. It's the same width. It's cut
14 inches.
14 inches wide, so that it's the same width as a bass drum. It's a 6-inch circle. We use sticks on it, and when you play, the kids can see the rotation of their hand. And one of the cool features about it that just kind of happened by the way they manufactured it. When you play dead center, there's a certain sound, but if your hand starts to wander out of the playing zone, it starts to open up and ring a little bit more. It literally takes weeks off of technique practice by putting that kid on right away, because they can see their hands. There's no more leaning over or trying to figure it out in a mirror. It's like right there in front of them, and they get instant feedback by the articulation and the sound of the pad. It was originally not going to be put out, and we had another company that was looking to potentially purchase it from us, but we just didn't want to do that. We wanted to keep it in the family of heavy hitter pads. And I was at PASIC after this meeting. We kind of split up, and I went down and I asked Vic, I said, Vic, have you seen the bass pad? And he said, what are you talking about? I said, you haven't seen the heavy hitter bass pad? He said, let me see it. And I pulled it out of my backpack, and before I could get it like 6 inches out of the backpack, Vic had tackled me and pushed me underneath the table. And now I'm sitting underneath the table with the tablecloth over us. Vic is like, don't show that in public. And I was like, his reaction was priceless. But we sat there underneath the table at PASIC, talked through it. He goes, can I take this back with me? And I said, sure. And I heard that when he walked back in, like whatever the Tuesday or Wednesday meeting was, that Vic had that pad sitting in the middle of the table and said, we need to find a way to make this. And then it became reality.
Yep.
Which we also said, our motto all the time was, these pads are going to turn dreams into reality.
I'm known for saying that. What do you do for a living? I take dreams and realities and I bring them together.
Yeah. And the last thing that we used to say all the time to each other while we were in the garage working with the paint and the adhesive, people better love these pads. And here we are 20 years later with Vic Firth.
A lot of hours and hours of elbow grease in that garage.
It's so cool to see the success of what was a dream. Hey, there's a lot of people with ideas. I always tell my students, you just got to go do it. You got to see it through.
Yep.
You know?